I'm Amy DeVroon and welcome to Year of the Selfie podcast. 2020 has been a mad year thus far, a year where we've really had to take a look at ourselves. As a self-help nut, this hasn't been hugely out of the ordinary for me, but what has been so unusual is watching an entire creative industry grind to a halt in front of my very eyes. The link between creativity and mental health has always fascinated me, so I wanted to go deeper. In a world where we so often equate success with fame, it can be easy to forget the reason behind it all. Creativity. This unique, inexplicable gift. The thing we do where we lose all sense of time. The thing that lifts our hearts even in the darkest of moments. The thing that many of us feel we were put on this earth to do. So every week I'm going to talk to my guests about just that. Their creativity. Their highs and lows, and where they find their creativity when it feels like there's nowhere to put it. On today's podcast, we have none other than actor and writer Nick Lee. Nick has had an amazing career so far, but what's truly amazing is how much he lets us in on that journey. It's going to be a good one, guys. So get cozy and enjoy. So Nick Lee, welcome to Year of the Selfie podcast. Yay! Thank you so much for being here.
Yay.
I'm actually thrilled.
I'm delighted. Delighted. I'm delighted to be here.
We had a little, we were just having a little 2-minute chat there before we started, and then I was like, I need to record. This is already gold. It's already a great chat. I was just, so basically for the listeners, obviously, Nick, you're an actor, you're a writer, and obviously great to have you on. But what kind of, and I've obviously known you for a long time at a distance, but what was kind of really interesting was after Sean's chat, we were just saying that you sent a really amazing email where you were just kind of like, yeah, totally felt every bit of that, everything that Sean was saying. And yeah, and yes, basically.
Absolutely, yeah.
And that's why I kind of really wanted to have you on, because actually what's interesting is I was talking to my mum this morning and I was saying about like how we have, like I was going, it's just great to see people that you're kind of going, that person's really successful, they're doing great, they look like they have it sorted or sussed, turning around going, I feel like that too. And that's how I felt when I got your email, because I would be kind of going, you seem to gig. You seem to be able to make, because you've worked in Dublin, London, and you're now in LA.
Yeah.
Are you still in LA?
Yeah, I mean, I think, I'm in LA. Yeah, I'm in LA now. Yeah, I mean, it's funny because I think in terms of career and stuff, it's funny. A friend of mine, a brilliant actor, one of my dearest friends, Peter Daly, and I were having a conversation once, and he was doing a talk, and he said, oh yeah, I'm just, I'm going to do this talk. It's at, I think it was Theatre Forum, and it's, it's on my career. And I went, do you have a career? and he went, and he stopped and he went, I don't know, do I? Do you? And I was like, I don't know. And it's funny because, when you're presenting yourself on, whatever, it's social media, but certainly on Spotlight or IMDb, what you're showing to people is all of the times that you worked. And I started working professionally, I suppose, like 2002, 2003. And, like that's, how long ago was that? Jesus, it's nearly 20 years ago. Yeah. So like, given over that sort of expanse of time, I do have a lot of credits, and I have worked on a lot of things, and I do have a lot of experience. But I think, when you spread that out, like I've also done 100 other things, 100 million other things in terms of work, in terms of personal development, in terms of like creative things that pop up or I pursue, and especially with writing, I think, because I'm still really only getting started as a writer.
Yeah.
And I knew, I think when I started out, when I started out writing, I was a little bit like, oh yeah, I'll give this a go, I can do this.
Yeah.
And I didn't didn't really get that, like, it's a, you know, it's a vocation, and it's like you have to put the time in, and you know, like a you know, if you really want to do it, you've got to set out to have some kind of mastery over it. And I feel like, even though I've been writing things for about 15 years, I still feel like I'm only just getting close to really having my own voice, which is as close to close to as possible. So the short answer to that is that, like, what I present is somebody who's very busy and in multiple locations at multiple times. I think I set out to do that much more when I was younger. Like, now I'm less concerned about people knowing that I work in a restaurant or you know, I don't care anymore. I think it's harder probably in a smaller community like in Dublin or something. But I feel like here, like, everybody does a million things and nobody really cares, and it just, I've got a very different perspective on it from I am, because I'm 5,000 miles from most of the people I know. Yeah, to be honest.
So like going to, and it gave you, I guess, that perspective. You would say, kind of, you know, going
to LA.
Yeah, going to LA would have given you that kind of perspective, getting away from. Did you find Dublin very small in that way, kind of, that everyone knew everyone?
Yeah, I mean,
bit of judgment, like, you know. That's me being very blunt now.
No, I mean, I would bring it back on myself, and like, there was definitely, I would say that, like, I was definitely growing disillusioned and bitter. I spent, like, I was on and off between Dublin and London for a long time. So I lived in London for 5 years, and then I left, and then I sort of went back and did a little bits and bobs of work, and then was back in Dublin, and then went back to London and left my Irish agent and sort of like focused on stuff there. And that kind of that kind of got me to LA in a really weird roundabout way, because I never really thought I would live in LA. I always wanted to live in New York. I did a play there in 2006 or 5 or 6, and I always thought, how do I get back to New York? That's what I want, you know. And you know, the perspective, something had to change for me, you know. The perspective element of it definitely came with time and distance, and this idea that, like, after 4 p.m. pretty much everybody I know and love in the world are asleep. And suddenly I had to be alone and like deal with myself and face myself and face all of the fears and failures, actually, really, that I felt about myself. And that was the perspective that you know, the price, I say, is like, you know, the price is like time and distance from the people you love, and what you gain from that then is like a perspective on yourself and on your life. But that came through, I mean, just in terms of acting alone, like, I was bored of myself as an actor. I remember just like, there was some audition came up and I was like, oh, I don't want to do that, and it was like, well, why not? It's an audition and it's perfectly good play or whatever. And I was like, no, I know what I do. and I'm bored. Like, I know what I do, and if I know what I do, then, and I'm bored, then the audience are going to be bored and the director's going to be bored. And what's the point of that? And
was that one of your kind of perceived failures? Like, as in, you were just doing the same thing all the time? Did you feel like you were just kind of coasting
all
a bit?
The time? And well, because I think this goes back a little further, and I guess like the thing was that, you know, I was always doing, not always, but like 9 times out of 10, if I was working, especially if it was like, you know, a more established company, I would be doing what I was told.
Yes.
And I was really desperate to do what I was told and to go, oh, how can I please you? And how can I be, you know, as good as, you know, and that sort of led me to panic attacks, like full on knockdown, like panic attacks on stage fright, two big ones on stage.
Okay, what, like, sorry,
yeah,
but like,
yeah,
I've never had a panic attack on stage. What the hell does that feel like? Like,
the first one,
because I'm like, I've lost a line on stage and I thought I was going to die. Do you know what I mean? Like,
yeah. And actually, the weird thing is that like you lose lines all the time, and but when you're in the mode of like a panic attack, or you're feel, you know, you drop a line and then you panic and you think you're drowning, and I mean the first time I had a panic attack, I was doing the Playboy of the Western World, and I was doing it with Druid, and it was part of this cycle of plays where we did all of the plays John Millington Sing, which is like an 8.5-hour event at the Olympia, and I think it was the Olympia where it happened. Anyway, and what happened was I kind of just like got like really hot, and it was like a third act of the play. It was like a lot of running around and shouting, and I thought somebody else had dropped the line, and that made me panic. I was like, and I was like hyperventilating. It was like a pretty highly strung character anyway, and I was like hyperventilating and freaking out, and didn't know what had hit me. Like didn't know, thought I was sick, like was really confused, and like talked to somebody backstage, and it was like, well, maybe you're sick, and like didn't understand the concept of panic attack. Got to the end of the run, like was really careful around that play from then on. Got to the end of the run, and I remember like confiding in someone, an older actor, a pal of mine, and he said, "Oh, you've had a panic attack. Like I've had those." And I was like, "Oh, what's that?" And I didn't really have another bad one until I did Juno and the Paycock at the Abbey, and I dropped a line and like panicked. It was like a matinee. Everything was a little bit off the gas. We were all having a little bit of fun, and I just dropped the line, and it was completely different. It was like there were bubbles in my head right there, because I was like thinking really hard, and I was like, ugh! And then so because I was like, oh my God, you dropped the line. It was like sirens were going off in my brain. I kind of missed the cue of the next line, but I came in, and then afterwards everyone was like, "Are you okay?" And I was like, yeah. But then I had stage fright for a month, which I didn't tell anyone about because I didn't want to panic them, and part of the shame of them, because a lot of what I was working through was shame. Part of the shame of it was that I had dropped the line, but I had unleashed my panic on everybody. So rather than going like an actor, you go, "Oh, whoops, I dropped that, and we're all in this together, and we're picking, cancel and continue." Like I had gone, "Ah!" Made it about me and my panic, and I was really embarrassed and ashamed of myself, actually. And so that panic continued, and I didn't want. Every night I would stand behind this door going, "Ah, don't want to go on." And I was with another actor, and I just like hid it from him, and would go on and feel dread and feel the line would circle in my brain before I'd say it, and then I'd say it. And then actually we got to the National. A play was going on at the National, and the National was a huge thing to me, because when I was in London, I would walk down there, and like a church, I'd be like, "Come on, I want to work here," and I was just, "This is my, you've got," and they go, "In, quit," and you'd see like an amazing show. And like, so when we opened at the National, I said to myself, I was I'd been working through it, and I stopped drinking. It was a big thing for me, like a feat after that happened as well. Like in that moment, I was like, I'm not gonna put any more pressure on my body, and I'm gonna take care of myself and see where this leads me. And so we got to the National, and it was opening night, and I sort of made a promise to myself. I said, either you enjoy this, or you get out. You're done. Like if you can't enjoy this opening night at the National
that you've dreamed of, you know,
that
that
you've
was the
dreamed of,
big,
like I was,
yeah.
yeah, big time. I was 19. I went to the National Theatre bookshop. It was my 19th birthday, and I spent like £100. Like that's a lot of money in 1973,
Yeah.
whenever it was. But it was like it was like I spent like £100 on books in the shop, and like brought them home and read them on the way home. So and so I said to myself, if you're not going to enjoy this now tonight, then just stop. Like it's not worth it. You know, you're punishing yourself. And but I did enjoy it. I kind of managed to be really it was a weird night. The show stopped because the door didn't open, and they stopped the show on press night. It was very strange. But it was I was like a Zen warrior at that point. I wasn't, that didn't freak me out. I was like, you can handle anything. And I didn't have another panic attack for a long time.
So was it like was that like a little turning point? Because if you had kind of almost like you were those gigs that where you were doing what you were told seemed to be the ones where you had the panic attack, and then almost like then when you kind of had a word, not that it's as simple as that, but when you had a word with yourself and were like, I have to actually enjoy this, did it kind of give you the freedom to even let go in your performance a little bit, that you were kind of going, not going to be so.
I mean, it's interesting, you know, like, so the first with Druid, especially because I was younger, and I was very much like, I'm doing what I'm told here, you know, I'm gonna, and then with, you know, because I have to, and then with Juno, it was like, I'm doing what I'm told here because I want to. I love this director so much, and I love the play, and I loved it was one of my favorite experiences ever doing anything. And so, like, it's interesting. It goes back to like what Sean was saying, like about the voice, that voice that says, you know, what are you doing? You shouldn't be here.
Yeah.
And what I learned was, now I learned it I learned a little bit myself, in those instances, to just go, come on, okay, you can galvanize yourself here, and you can do this, and you want to do this, and you're good at it. And but the weird thing about that is that, like, it didn't stick. Like it stuck for a while, and then, like, I went on, I did a play. I've done two plays after Juno. I did Dubliners, and then I did a play called The Changing. Those were the only two plays I didn't. I was very calm. I didn't panic. I'd stopped drinking at that point, more or less. I mean, certainly around the plays, and then the following year I stopped drinking completely. I just was like, this isn't making me feel good. And so then I went on to, I ended up, and I mean, I suppose this is like a podcast about 3 panic attacks. But I mean, the real, those were miniature turning points. But the real one was, I got this job on a show on this, it's a network called the CW, like 90210, and like kind of like teeny kind of shows. And the TV show I was doing was called Rain, and it was sort of like a cross between like 90210 and the Tudors.
Right.
If you can imagine.
Wow.
That.
I can
so it was like
imagine.
Very teeny, very sexy,
yes,
but no like substance, and you know, again, the cast were like they were the nicest cast I ever met. They were so like welcoming and lovely. The rest of it was all a bit corporate and strange, and I did not understand what the hell was going on. And they when I flew out there to do it, I didn't know if I was going to be there for 2 weeks or 7 years. Like it was one of those things where you sign this like a really lucrative contract. You just sign it and you go, wow. And they're like, yeah, but you know, there's 2 weeks where you just have to be. And I'm like, have to be what? Well, you have to be nice. I'm like, but I am nice.
Oh my
Okay,
God.
but
Yeah.
and so then like I spent like a few weeks going, okay, and I'm in this apartment. I'm like getting more and more tense and nervous. And I mean, the first sort of few scenes and stuff were cool, and then you know, I would have like pretty much every episode I would have to say I was like the ambassador to the Queen of France on behalf of the Queen of England or something, and like I would have to say, you must give up your claim to the throne, right? Every episode. That was pretty much me in a nutshell, right? And I had to go. And so one of the episodes, this director came up to me and said, could you do it more James Bond? And I went, yeah. So I was like, you must give up your claim to the throne. And he was like, okay, could you smile more?
Oh
Like,
my
oh,
God.
okay, cool. Do you mean James Bond or Austin Powers?
Yeah.
They didn't really get that. Actually, you know
Oh,
what? I didn't need to say that. But in my head, I'm going like, what do you? I don't know why. And it was all
yeah.
like sexy, confident. Come on, come
Oh
on,
my
come on. And I'm
God.
going, and they're literally doing that. And I'm going, okay, I'm getting this wrong. And then I was like, you must give up your claim to the throne. And they're like, yes, that's it. And I'm like, that's shit. It's
Oh,
terrible. It's the worst. It's the
oh
worst
my
acting
God.
I've ever done in my life. And meanwhile, like my agent in England is going, you know, how's it going? We haven't heard yet, but you know, we're hoping that the contract will kick in any minute now. And I'm going, okay, let me know. And
Did you kind
then
of not want it
one
to? Were you
night,
a bit at that stage like, I'm not
no, you know
sure?
what? I really wanted it to. I really
Yeah.
wanted it to because I really wanted to finally make money.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it never really made that much money. And I left my Irish agent March, I think, of that year, March or April of that year,
Uh-huh.
and people were a bit like, "Oh, don't, what? Would you have another?" And I'm like, "I have an English agent." Yeah, but you're not living there, and like everyone was a little bit like, "Oh, I don't know what you're doing here. It could be," and I was like, "But it's time." You know, I'm going up for these things that I don't want to do, and they think I'm
Yeah.
crazy for not wanting to do them. So I left them, and I made more money than I'd ever made in my life, like
Yeah.
in the subsequent 6 to 12 months, and it was a complete like belly flop, kind of like I don't know what I'm doing, but I
Yeah.
have to get away from here, and
Yeah.
and and so and so what happened was, in terms of then going back to Rain and how that all played out, was that it was like my last scene, and I didn't know if I was leaving the next day or I was staying on for, like I said, for like 7 years or something. And it was like really hot and stifling, and it was like I wasn't used to like the we were shooting outside. It was like really hot and stifling, and also I was like in this sort of panic mode. I was like, just I wanted to get it right. I wanted to get it right for them, and I'm wearing this like big cape.
Yeah.
And have the scene again, and they're like going, so come on, like let's see it, like confidence and sexy. And okay, but what am I being confident about?
Yeah.
They don't care. Just confidence and sex. That's all we want to see. And I
Doesn't
was going,
matter.
okay, and I had a panic attack.
Oh
I
my
could
God.
not say words. And
Oh
the
my.
and the guy in front of me was so nice and kind and going, fine, don't worry about it.
Yeah.
And it was like the end of the day, and I could feel like the crew were just going, oh God, here we go.
Yeah.
And I was like, and the thought came into my head, you've bottled it.
Mm.
It's not even my language, which is weird. I would
Yeah.
never say that to myself or anyone, but I was saying it to myself now. You've bottled it. And yeah, it was rough. That was the worst panic attack I had because it felt like the most was on the line.
Yeah. Yeah. Uh,
Uh,
and
and
did they give you the time? Like, were they kind of like, just give yourself a minute there, we'll like pick it up? Like, was it, or like,
yeah,
how do you?
they did, and of course, well, it's weird because like when you're in that mode, like it's like you're here and you
Mm,
can't see. So like in the scheme of things, especially now, years ago, and now I look back and go, oh God, like And again, it goes back to like this thing of perspective, I think. But
Mm.
like nobody really noticed. They knew
Yeah.
that I was like dropping lines and not really got it together. Maybe they thought I hadn't learned the scene properly or something,
Yeah.
or I was a little bit off, maybe. But like they weren't going, he's having a full blown existential crisis, which is what I was having.
Yeah.
I was like, I was going, you're not, you're not good enough. They were right back in Dublin, and I never,
Yeah.
there was never any thought that like people in Dublin,
People were wishing you badly
there
and
was
being like, well, look at him
no,
now with
it's
the notions of
all in
himself.
my head,
Yeah.
totally all in my head, and so what they did was there was a really nice script supervisor who came over and said, what do you need? And I said, I just would love to run it a bunch of times. And she said, come on outside. So we went out like past the horses and the castle and the thing. And we went outside and we like ran it 3 times. And I went back in and I like clenched my fists and put my fists under my cape.
Oh my God. Brilliant.
Right? And just like it was my close up and I said the words and I got to the end of the scene. I must watch it again and just see like what it.
Yeah, I was going to say,
It's
have you watched
definitely
it
not my
since,
best, my finest
knowing
work, but
that?
I'm sure you're not going. I watched it once, I think, and I was like, it's not as bad as I thought it was.
Yeah.
But again, then what happened was like the contract clicked in, and it was like a different contract to what they promised, and all that's neither here nor there. That's just the way the thing is. But it was still a very lucrative contract, and it was like a month long. And I knew I had a month, and I was in Canada, and I was shooting all these episodes, and I immediately relaxed, and I was like, okay, how am I going to do this? Oh, I'm going to do this the way I do this and have done it, because I know how to do it. And I know how to be relaxed and give them that confidence and whatever else they want. But my fear was that I was missing something. There was something that I wasn't getting. And the truth was that it was all there.
Yeah.
I ended up in LA after that because sort of like a lot of those guys were sort of LA based, and I got a manager, and it gave me the time space to get a green card, and I went to visit LA, and I pretty much just stayed.
Yeah.
But talking about, going back to your point about turning points, I made it my mission to figure out what was going on, not figure out what was going on, to just to get to know myself better, to get to know the source of the anxiety, and to just really look at it with more compassion rather than this sort of need to like, I can't be anxious, which is just doesn't
that
help.
will help. Yeah.
Right. Be creative.
Do better. Yeah. Oh no, I totally get that. Was Dublin or like Ireland, was it not the space for you to discover that, or was it just not the time? Like I do feel like in LA, or sometimes just being away from everything. Being away, I feel sometimes can give you that. Is it the space or the time? Like, was it just good timing, or was it that you were also
definitely the time and space? And I think like, when you meet the same people who know you, and you present your identity or who you want to be to people, and then they reinforce that. And suddenly you're sort of out here and nobody knows me and nobody really understands where I'm from or cares. I mean, it's funny because like, even like growing up, this is on a very base level, but like growing up, I grew up in Monaghan, right? So like I would go to Belfast and they'd think I was from Dublin, and I'd go to Dublin and they'd think I was from Belfast.
Yeah.
And I would often explain, that, well, no, I'm from Monaghan and it's in the south, and it's, and I'm Irish.
Yeah.
And then like I go to England and they'd be a bit like, well, you're British, and that would annoy me. And then I sort of would let go of all of that. But out here, it's like nobody has a clue.
Yeah.
Like, so on a very basic level, like nobody has a clue nor cares.
Yeah.
So in a way, like, and I'm not surrounded by the people I know who know certain things about me or have certain expectations of me, I suppose.
Yeah.
So there's that, and yeah, I mean, you know, your environment kind of, I feel like, anyway, my environment told me what I was in a way. And I was
Yeah.
like, okay, I want to be something else. I don't know what that is, but I knew that there were two things. One, as an actor, like I said, I was bored of myself, and I wanted to, like, if I was going to keep being an actor, I wanted to, like, look at it, take a different look at it. And one of those things was, like, I did Meisner out here, which I loved, and kind of, like, made me much more immediate in my work as an actor, rather than prescribed. I was, like, very prescribed. I used to, like, you know, go, I have to go from A to B to Z, you know, and you know, actions and intentions, and, you know, and then Meisner is just like, how do you feel right now?
Yeah.
I feel nervous. Okay, great. Let's play the scene, you know.
Yeah. Yeah.
Be nervous in the scene, you know, or whatever that was. So that sort of, like, opened me up to kind of more things.
Yeah, because you think in Ireland, I was chatting about this actually to my sister recently, and we were just
Yeah.
saying there was a kind of a thing years ago. I'm not sure if it's still like that. In fact, it probably still is a little bit, but I feel like in Ireland, there's almost like there's a bit of shame attached to if you do workshops or you work on yourself as an actor. Like, it must mean that you're not working, you know, like, I'm sure it's
Yeah.
changing and it's different now. But there was always that sense, even up until a few years ago, I think, that it was just sort of like, oh, you just do loads of workshops, you know, like, you're not a real actor, you're not doing well.
There was definitely always this concern that, you know, well, will the other people in the workshop be as good as me? And I'm not just saying that for myself, but, like, that was sort of the all-pervading, well, it's a workshop, but, like, who's going to be in it? And, you know, and it was weird. Like, I mean, don't get me wrong, I kind of avoided them because I hated, God, am I going to admit this out loud? I did not enjoy my time at Trinity in terms of what I studied. That was probably partly to do with me, but it was partly to do with the curriculum, and, you know, it was kind of a little bit, looking back, and it was probably quite conservative, and there were, like, some aspects of it I loved. I did 3 years the acting degree that's no longer exists.
So it's not it wasn't the drama and theatre studies, it was like the bachelor in acting kind of thing that then
Bachelor of Acting Studies, and they ran out of money, and they were sort of running out of money all the while we were there, and the way they were presented to us was like, well, the university doesn't understand that, you know, we don't do exams, we do different, you know, we do a dance showcase, and so they don't know how we're judging things, or so expensive or something. I mean, I don't know, but it did feel like you're stepping onto a sinking ship. And the Lear didn't come around until years later, you know, but it was, I felt it was a really hard time, and I was a little bit, like, allergic. I had a sort of an allergic reaction to the idea of, like, classes and taking a class until I came out here, and then I was just like, and I was still a little bit allergic, actually, to be honest. And I went to the first one, and they say, you know, you audit a class, you know, so you watch it. And so I was very skeptical, and then I was hooked. It was this 4-hour class, and I was like, I need to do this, and I, you know, and I did it for 2 years. But the other side of that, and it's sort of the same, it's sort of like the other side of the same coin, but, like, is like therapy as well. And that was something that I threw myself into, and you know, going back to that thing about the again, what Sean said about the voice in your head, was like, CBT for me was like a revelation, cognitive behavioral therapy, where
Yeah.
you can, if you hear a voice in your head that says you're bottling this, for example,
Yeah. Yeah.
then what you can do is separate yourself as the person who is hearing a voice,
Mm-hmm.
and you, as the person who's hearing the voice, can respond to that voice and say, no, I'm not,
Yeah.
you know.
Which is kind of brilliant and kind of in tune with acting as well, as in that if you can just separate if there is a little bit of separation with the character, like I guess in
Right.
Meisner, I know that I would have done kind of some Chekhov stuff, and they're similar. I know they had different schools of thought, but they were kind of under the realm a bit of imagination, whereas it's not so like your history and
Right.
your
Right.
granda dying kind of thing. I think if there's a
Yeah.
gap, but a little gap between yourself and the character, yeah, use your
Right.
use your body, use all that kind of stuff. But I think that it can be very helpful in acting, and therefore and in real life really helpful to separate yourself from the thought, because
Yeah.
I just think they kind of go hand in hand in a strange way, if that makes sense.
Totally. And I think like growing up, like I didn't know that um I didn't know that I was making choices
Yeah.
in life. I just thought life was kind of happening, and I was like, yeah, I want to be an actor and I'm going to do that. But like the rest of it was sort of like life just sort of happens at you,
Yeah.
rather than, I'm going to decide to have a good day. You can
Yeah.
kind of do that.
Yeah, totally. Yeah. Yeah, because I think even I know just with people always have a perception of me where they think like, oh, you're really proactive and you'll do things and you'll get stuff done and you write and you do that. And it's like, no, I just decide I'm going to do it. And I tell myself I can. And it may not be very good, but I just do it, because the option then is either not and then just beating myself up in a corner.
Right.
So like, why
Right.
not just, so I think, yeah, it's, I
Yeah.
totally can get that. It's the kind of idea that like you do have a little bit of control in it.
One of the best experience I ever had was to this play with a director called David Laveau.
Yeah.
And he said, like, really early on, it's funny because like I thought he was an absolute genius, and like I just thought he was incredible and he changed my life. And other people were like, he's a total charlatan. Like, what? But he said, what he said was, and this was one of the things, and I'll never forget it. He said, I stopped worrying about being good or bad a long time ago. It only made me depressed.
Yeah.
He said, I wake up every morning and I say, am I alive? Am I listening? Am I in tune with myself? And am I open to the world? And that's how he says, I renew my contract with life every day, or it's like something like that. I was like, oh, okay. And even then I didn't fully understand it, but now I go, yeah, like this idea of success is very problematic,
Yeah.
like because it doesn't really fit the idea of like success on social media or the media or whatever. It's like, it doesn't fit. It's about wealth, and it's about it's about fame and wealth, essentially. And
Was there a
when you
gig?
focus on those, yeah.
Oh no, I was just going to say, was there a gig that you were like, I'm successful now, like that's the thing, and that's going to make me happy, and then you realize, oh shit, no, it didn't. Like, was there in that idea of that we have this stupid perceived notion of success? I hope I haven't run you off a very good train of thought there.
No, 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 no. You totally not at all. I mean, it's fun. It was like all I wanted. When I was a kid, all I wanted to do was like be in Irish plays on tour internationally.
Yeah.
That was the thing. That's what I wanted to do, and I did do that, and it was brilliant, and I loved it. And then I was like, okay, what else do I want to do? And then when I was about 26, I was like, I want to be on a HBO show. I saw The Sopranos. I was like, I want to be on HBO. And the closest I've come to that so far was The Fall, And so I read the fall and I was like, oh, this is amazing, this script, and it's set in Belfast and it's not about the Troubles and it's like a thriller, and I thought it was amazing, and I went after it and I pursued it and I got really excited about it. And you know, it was like some of the acting was good, but the whole experience was quite dissatisfying.
Okay.
Scenes were constantly being cut, and I mean, the story became much smaller. It was supposed to be this sort of expanse of a community, and then they got, a whiff of like, oh, we've got 2 stars and that's what people want to see, and so they just sort of cut it all down and became very uninterested in everybody else.
Yeah.
And the actors playing everybody else.
Yeah. Okay. For sure.
And in the beginning, we all felt like we were on this journey together into making this great show, and then it was just like, it was just really just dissatisfying and disappointing, and
kind of when there's that commercial element that always, I feel like that plays such a huge part. You're sort of like sold one thing, and when there's a lot of money in it and stars and different things, it does kind of then get diluted down quite often and very quickly sometimes.
Yeah, I think so. And I think, I mean, not to bring it down at all. It was, I thought it was a brilliant show, and I was glad to be part of it. I was really glad to be part of it. But I think I just thought that it was like, this is what it'll feel like to have like that. It just felt kind of disappointing. But then that was my expectation as well.
Yeah.
Like I've done plays where I remember doing this play in London and going, and again saying to myself, it was a play called The Dead School, and it was I took over from somebody. We did 3 weeks in the Tricycle in London, and I did it with an actor who I had always looked up to called Sean Campion.
Yeah.
And it was like he had this part, but like it was like he was like a dog with a bone. Like it was so thrilling to be around his performance and to play opposite him, that I was just like, I remember going, the thought of like, oh, should I write to agents or cast? I was like, I am not thinking about any of that.
Yeah.
I'm just gonna go and like just enjoy this and like really just live in this 3 weeks of this play, and whatever happens. And that was sort of the opposite end of it, where you kind of like, you get this little thing and it's just like, yes.
Yeah. And that, I love that as well, that kind of thing of not going, because there's so much, when you're doing a job, I hate that element of being like, oh God, should I be writing to people now? Should I be telling people? Should I be and it really ruins the real beauty of the thing that you're actually doing and then really enjoying, and brings it down. Because say, for example, the people don't come or you don't get picked up or whatever, then you feel like almost like it was a failure, when it's not. It's been this amazing experience.
Yeah, and that's again, it goes back to that thing of like the business side of it and the creative, the art of it are so at odds with each other.
Yeah.
You go back to, I just always admire people who can kind of like go and do something and then just go no, and then go off and like come back with something else that's great and brilliant. Like it's very obvious when somebody goes and does something and then like it's like season 2 of something and it's absolute trash.
Yeah.
Because they just got Stranger Things. It's popped into my head.
Yes.
I just thought it was utter like rubbish when it came. I mean, is this the end of my career? Probably.
Yeah. Amy DeBruyn's just going around ruining careers left, right, and centre.
Did I have a career in the beginning?
Yeah.
Who knows?
Who knows? That was the beginning. No, because wasn't that the same with like Ricky Gervais? I think that was the thing people really admired about The Office and stuff like that. That he was literally just like, no, that's finished now. Stop trying to make it into something else. you know,
Yeah,
and doesn't he
yeah,
do
yeah,
maybe 2 or 3 series of everything and then kind of cuts it?
yeah.
Which I do admire, I have to say, because it's really upsetting to see a series jump the shark. It's really upsetting because it
It's
kind of makes you fall out of love with the
with
experience
the
of it.
first the thing that you loved in the first place. Yeah, I mean, like,
Yeah.
I to be honest, I don't. That. I mean, this is. I don't know what the solution is to these things,
Mm.
and I'm just like speaking as somebody who watches TV rather than uh, who knows anything about it. But like most shows, I think run their course, and I mean, like things like I watch things like Game of Thrones, and I go, look at I'll give Game of Thrones a pass because they had the Hodor episode, so they can do whatever else for the next 50. But I
Yeah.
always found it very like hit and miss. But the things that I admire are like shows that just like consistently are like, and what they're doing, I think, is like the people who are making the shows that are consistent are people who are in touch with their creativity
Mm.
beyond everything else, and they could go and do it in a workshop
Yeah.
in a forest somewhere and have it never be seen by anyone, and it would
Yeah.
still be brilliant. But then I think what happens is when money and concerns and the business starts going, oh well,
Mm.
we need to do this, and maybe you could get a star into the second season because he really liked it,
Yeah.
and then it's just like, and I'm just like, I'm talking as a viewer because I don't know. I'm not in the room for those fights, and and
Yeah.
and I'm sure they're hard fights to have.
And in terms of your writing, are you just in that early stages of writing where, like, have you been at any point where you've gotten funding or you were trying to get somebody on board and then there was compromises that were going to be needed to be made, or are you still at that kind of stage of writing where you're
Yeah,
like
no, I mean, I'm pretty honestly, like I'm at the stage where I would listen to anybody who has anything to say to me about what I've written. I am
Mm.
all ears, and because I want to take it all in, and I want to hear as many points of view as possible, and because I'm still really like I say, I feel like I'm just at the point where I'm writing something going, that's me. Nobody else could write that. That's me.
Mm.
That's an expression of who I am,
Yeah.
and it's taken me a long time to get there. But in terms of like, no, I mean, like, uh, I've never really been in a situation where somebody has said, hey, do you think this should be this to be more? It's usually the other way around. It's usually like, can we take that car chase out because
Yeah.
there's no way we're going to afford that, or
Yeah.
they're going to give us the money for that. And I'd be
Yeah.
like, okay.
Yeah. Whatever.
But yeah, and as a writer, I'm very open. I'm sort of an
Yeah.
open book. I'm happy to kind of like, I sort of trust readers to, I think people are, this is a really general thing to say, but like, I think people are much better at reading something and going, I get this, I don't get that, than seeing it acting and going, you need to be a little louder,
Yeah.
or you know what I mean?
Yeah, oh totally. It's much more like, is that the word, prescriptive or whatever? You feel like they're like, oh, this is not working because of A, B, and C. Whereas with the performance there, yeah, it's like, can you try doing it like softer with a bit of it there? And you're like, what?
Right,
Don't know what you're
right.
asking
And people,
for.
because people, exactly, and they think it's harder for people to articulate. Whereas, like in reading, so it's like, I don't understand this, and you're like, brilliant, no, thank you. Because if
Yes.
somebody doesn't understand what you've written, you're like,
Yeah.
okay, this is I needed that note.
And was it writing something you always did, or was something that you did to take back your power, or like, because it feels like at the moment there's definitely a trend in Ireland for sure where any actor who's not working should be writing something like, because we've seen people go before that were like, oh well, I just wrote this play or I just wrote a thing, and I think that puts huge pressure on people because some people either don't want to write really deep down, or probably maybe aren't very good at it or whatever the thing is. But like, I think it just puts such a pressure on people. Because it's like people kind of do this like off the cuff thing of like, you should write something, you should write your own thing. And like you're saying, there's actually a mastery to it. And I don't feel like I've mastered it at all, you know. And then you get these actors who are like fresh out of drama school and have a year off where they're not really getting much work. And then someone tells them to write something. It's just overwhelming.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I think it's, you know, there's various degrees to it. You know, it's like, you know, if you are an actor and you're like, I know I can act, and if I just have the right thing to act in, maybe I could write it. I think that's a good idea to then go and write it. I mean, I came to writing, you know, in a way, I'm sort of revising my, how and when I came to writing. Like, I was always creative. I always wrote, like, loved writing English essays and all of that sort of stuff. But I never really took that into account when I started writing, like, I suppose like 2005, I was working with a young theater director who was like, I was like, I could write a play. And she was like, okay, go and write a play. And I was like, okay. And I wrote 10 pages, and she wrote, okay, where's the other 75 pages? And then I sort of kept going, and it was, but then the more I read and the more I sort of developed relationships with writers, and I actually had I developed like probably an unhealthy respect for what they did.
Yeah.
And I say unhealthy, like unhealthy for me in the sense that, like, I revered, you know, just even like Martin McDonagh's stuff. Like when I read it, The Pillow Man and things like that, I was just like, you know, I couldn't touch that, you know. But then that was more about me looking at that, going, oh, how could I ever achieve something like that, rather than going, well, who are you and what do you have to say, you know, which is, I suppose, comes a little bit more with maturity. But you know, like, I kind of am of the thing of like, everyone should write, and not to put shit on, like, just write.
Yeah.
Just write to know yourself, you know. Like, I journal. One of the things I do, so I don't have panic attacks anymore, is that I journal, and like every day I'll journal and just say, I did this, I feel like that, I'm scared about this, I'm excited about that, you know, and you get to know that voice in your head that sometimes turns on you and it says brutal things to you as well, you know.
But I think that's the thing, actually, that you like write to know yourself. You don't need to, it's not with this sort of extra thing that you need to do because you're failing at one thing, so you better go and succeed at this thing, you know, or create an opportunity for yourself. Actually, it's like to know yourself, to, you know, and it doesn't have to, it can just sit in your journal. It doesn't have to go up on Instagram. It doesn't have to be the next play on in the next Fringe theatre or the next, you know. I think that actually is so true.
But it's interesting as well what you say, like, about like failure, and what is that? And because somebody asked me actually a few years ago, was like, oh, why do you live here? And I said, I mean, I surprised myself when I said this, but I meant it. And I said, like, I can sit with my failure here. And I couldn't at home. I was running away from it always, whether I was drinking or, you know, hanging out with the wrong people, or, you know, on social media, or just like constantly distracting myself. And I needed a job so that I could avoid that sense of failure. You know, I needed, you know, and it just doesn't work like that. And so here, like, you know, if I, you know, I sit with it, and it's not a bad thing. Failure is not a bad thing.
No.
Everyone fails all the time, but it's like this idea of like, oh, if you fail, or if you have failures, or if you feel like a failure, you know, it's like everything, we fail all the time, and then we get better and we improve. And it's the Becca quote that I can't remember, or I will butcher, so I won't say it, but you should, you know, I think it's hard. I don't know whether it's an Irish thing, or I don't know. Maybe it's just where it's because it's where I grew up. But like, I found it very hard to face my sense of failure.
Yeah. Yeah. It's a, yeah.
And I'm not afraid of it, you know. And I'm not. It's like it makes me feel strong now.
Yeah. Yeah. I can. Yeah, I think that I don't know. I do think though, in a smaller country, you're less inclined to be vulnerable enough to fail, because everybody is watching. And everybody,
Yeah.
I always felt like, having been in London at the very beginning of my career, and for those kind of formative years, and at drama school and staying over there and coming later, I always feel like I have this sense of perspective and wideness, or bigness, you know, to the world or something. And
yeah.
And I think sometimes, like, I feel like here everyone knows who's going for the job, and if that person got the job, everyone else failed, and you know, and everyone else is shit. And and I'm always kind of constantly trying to remind people, you know, there's like jobs in other countries, like, you know, there's jobs in England and America and all of these other places that are, you know, are open to us. So I do, I do think it is something to do with being in a small country, and that kind of fear of failure. And it's not, I don't know if it's celebrated as much as, you know, like I feel like in LA, the failure is like, you fail and then you fail better, you know, you learn something, and there's like, I don't know if that's my cartoony version of LA that I have in my head.
To be honest, I think culturally, I think that it's like, it is a bit of a culture of like winners and losers, you know, and it's like, they don't, you know, if you're a loser, they don't call you back, you know, but it's like, that's for me. I don't care what the culture is, because it's not my culture, and it's like, I'm an outsider, and I don't know what I'm capable of. Like I know what I know that I don't have a limit on what I'm capable of, is what I'm saying. And they don't know me any better to limit me either, you know? So, like, you know, it's one of the things when I got here first that I loved about America was Wesley Snipes was on a billboard, and I was like driving along, and I was like, is that Wesley Snipes on a billboard? And I'm like, yeah, he's in this new show on NBC. And I was like, I thought he was in jail. And he was in jail, and he just got out of jail, and now he's on a billboard. He's in a TV show. And I was like, brilliant. There's a sense here that, like, you know, no problem, like, cannot be solved. Like, whatever. And so, I mean, when I came here, I was like terribly anxious, and I just come off the back of that rain thing, and I probably felt like I'd messed up my chance of like a lucrative career or whatever. And so I was like, and it made me realize, you're not the only person to go through this. You know, and so that's one of the things about, you know, the culture here. But like, I don't know. I mean, I'm probably not really articulating the nuance of like the differences between sort of Ireland and America in terms of, you know, those things. I mean, and the thing is that like they both have like a push and a pull. Like I don't prefer it here.
No,
I love it here, but I don't prefer it here. and I miss Ireland every day, you know.
Yeah.
And I miss like walking down the street and meeting like 15 people that I know, and like
Yeah.
2 of them are coming from a audition, and 3 of them are going to the play and the project and invite you along, and
Yeah.
I miss that desperately.
But like it's all relative. It is all relative, and it's not. It
Yeah,
can't just be bottled and going like, oh well, this is this way. You know, this country is this way, and this country's that way, and that's why. You know,
yeah,
you can't
yeah,
bottle it.
yeah,
But it's obviously your journey has taken you to this place where you were allowed, or you allowed yourself for whatever reason, to have that space to become comfortable with failure. Because probably with all eyes on you, you know, you weren't like, you know, people knew you in the industry. It wasn't as if like nobody knew who you were, so you were able to just fail and do whatever you liked in Ireland. Like it's nice to just get that little bit of a kind of a bit of space, bit of perspective in order to be comfortable yourself with failing, you know, or whatever that perceived idea of failing is, I guess.
yeah, yeah. I think so. Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
Yeah,
But no definitive answers. Don't worry, I'm not. As much
yeah.
as I
No,
wish, I'm not a psychotherapist.
no.
I'm even trying to bottle it up in a neat little package, going, and that's why that happened.
Right,
Okay,
yeah, yeah, yeah,
cool.
totally, yeah, yeah, totally, yeah. And Ireland is green and America
Yeah,
is blue, and we're all, yeah,
yeah, and that's how that works.
yeah,
But I kind of I'm going to have to like kind of reluctantly wrap it up. But I
yeah,
do
of
want to
course,
ask you
yeah,
what creativity means to you, and it could be as vast or as, you know, as one sentence or 100 sentences as you like, whatever.
you know, it's funny because it's it, like it, like it means what it means to me is connection.
Yeah,
Um, but connection, I've grown to sort of hate the word connection because it feels so like industrial or something.
yeah,
Um, and I guess I guess a better word is like creating a rapport,
mm,
and whether it's like creating a rapport with another person, or you're creating that rapport with yourself, or um, uh, you know, because even if you're just sitting, I've started like, especially in the last couple of months, whatever, I've like started like sketching and stuff.
mm,
It's not for anyone.
yeah.
You know, I'm terrible. I'm no Sean Brannigan.
I don't think anyone is. Heartbreaking.
Never will be. But you know, it's not. It's just for myself, you know, and
Mm,
like, and so that's still. It feels creative, and it feels. Um, I'm still making something.
yeah.
Um, so yeah, I guess it's about. I guess for me, it's about creating a rapport, making a rapport.
Yeah. Like, well, certainly from this conversation, you've created a rapport with me and a connection with me, and
Yeah,
but even just, it's really lovely to hear your journey and see that you have created a connection with yourself. Do you know what I mean? Like you've
yeah,
gone the road, and obviously our lives are ever evolving and ever changing, but it's just really, and really, like, also thanks for being so open, because again, I just think people will get so much out of it. Like, you know,
I hope
hearing
so.
God,
I
yeah.
hope someone
Or
does.
I'm just ending your career. No, but I think people will
Yeah,
get so
yeah,
much from it, because it's just, yeah, just to, because everything that you're saying, I feel. Do you know what I mean? Or I felt.
yeah,
And
yeah, yeah,
so it is so interesting, because I think we kind of are so reluctant to really admit it sometimes, or something. You know, it's kind of like it's a
yeah.
failure. So
I think. I mean, in my experience of Ireland, you know, and it's not to again, it's not to rag on Ireland. It's like it's just where I grew up. It's like it's it's you know, silence is sort of the go-to. You know,
yeah,
you bury it, and that was, I think, maybe the generation before, and you
sure.
know, now I think things are changing in Ireland, and it's funny because like I felt like I've changed a lot, I suppose, in the years that I've been away, but Ireland is sort of changing too while I'm gone. You know.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, so it's time to break that silence embedded in our in our DNA, really.
Yeah. It's tough. Yeah.
But yeah, thank you so much. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thanks. Thank you. And good luck with all the rest of this. It's amazing.
Yeah, let's God, I'm gonna head out to LA when all this is over and come see you.
Yeah.
You come and see us. Thanks so much. Thanks.
Yeah.
Thanks, Nick. So there you have it. Nick Lee. What an absolute gent. He was so open and so willing to share his story, and not a bother on him, like in just such a casual and cool way. I just so enjoyed the chat. I said to him afterwards that, you know, it's such a cliche, but I don't think men talk about this enough, and I loved that he did and was so articulate and clear about his journey. So thank you, Nick. It's been such a pleasure, and listen, can't wait till I see him in Dublin or LA again, and we can continue this conversation. But I honestly wish him all the best. So if you have enjoyed this podcast, do not hesitate to like us on Instagram, to subscribe to the channel, to share it, to rate it. We're on Apple Podcasts, we're on Spotify, we are on YouTube. So just do your worst, people, and I'll see you on the next one. Have a great day, guys.